Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And welcome to Forgotten Cinema Lead Up. Each episode, we highlight a film from a popular series and follow it all the way to the most recent release. We'll discuss what we love about the movie or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it, even the not so good ones. So let's get into it. Mr. Butler, how are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, I was just excavating a cave up in what looked like Greenland or Iceland, and I found some cave paintings, and that pointed me to a constellation in the sky, that pointed me to a planet. I went to this planet. I figured we're going to meet our makers. We're going to meet the aliens that made us. And all I found was some black goo, some horny alien snakes, and I got all of my crew killed. But it's okay, because I'm trusting a homicidal robot that killed my lover and almost got me pregnant, did get me pregnant with an evil alien, to bring me to those people's homeworld, even though they clearly want to murder us all, because I want answers.
That sounds a little bit like Prometheus. I'm not really sure she knew that David was a homicidal robot.
She knows.
Yes.
At one point, she gets it that, oh, shit, you made him sick.
Also, they were not in Finland or Iceland. They were in the Isle of Skye in Scotland. That's where they were in the beginning of the movie. I just want to correct you before we get,
Does it say that, though, like in captions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What were you doing? Getting the beer while it was starting?
Wow.
So obviously everyone out there who has been listening or watching to the lead up series, we are in the home stretch. We have gone through Alien and Aliens, which we, of course, we loved. Got to Alien 3 with some mixed results. Alien Resurrection, again, a mixed bag. AVP, we're kind of all right. We kind of back and forth. There may be some decent action, kind of.
It's fun.
AVP,
it's not great.
AVP Requiem, not exactly one of our faves. A lot of issues there. But we have turned the corner, and Ridley Scott has come back, and we are now in the... does Alien Romulus... It has no connection to these two, so that's a separate film, correct? So this is just basically, we're up against the two Prometheus films coming up. Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which is the sequel to Prometheus. There's nothing else after that.
Correct.
Just too bad. I kind of wanted another little trilogy there, but that's fine. We'll work with that. So we're talking about Prometheus. Let's get into it, because I know Mike has a lot of things he wants to talk about with this film, because as he kept telling me when I was watching it, before we watched it and all that stuff, he was really excited about it. So let's get into the facts, and then we will talk about the film as we always do in this lead-up series. Prometheus has a runtime of 124 minutes. Rated R. Production budget anywhere between 120 million and 130 million. Release date, it came out on a Friday, June 8th, 2012. So the start of the summer season, I guess. Opening weekend, it did $51 million. Domestic, $126.5 million. International, $276.9 for a worldwide total of $403.4 million. So a bit of a hit there, Mike, don't you think?
I would say so.
Yeah. Production company was Scott Free Productions, Brandywine, which has been here throughout, Dune Entertainment, and it was distributed by 20th Century Fox. I said it came out on the 8th of June. Let's go back a week to the 1st of June, when you had a wide release of Snow White and the Huntsman and Outlaws, and then a limited release of Piranha 3DD, which we had 3DD in the theater where we worked, right?
We did.
I remember watching it. Maybe at a screening.
Oh, I don't think I watched it at the screening. I watched it on TV, and I was like, I should have just watched this when it was in 3D. It probably would have been a little bit more fun.
I do remember seeing it in 3D. Anyways, the 8th of June, which was when this film came out, Prometheus, it went up against in a wide release Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. I think I don't even know if that was busy, or if, I don't even know. I know the
Are
first
there 3 or 4? Because the last Madagascar we had in the theater did not do well.
I don't even know what the 4th one would be. I remember the 3rd one was when they're on the train with the circus, so I knew that. There was a 4th one. Oh,
yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. Anyways, there's a release that. I don't know. I'm not up on my Madagascar movie knowledge. but I will get there. Limited release of Safety Not Guaranteed, which is actually the direct. I think not the first movie, but it was directed by Mark Webb, who went on to do the Spider-Man films. The first Spider-Man. Did he do the other ones? Does Mark Webb do this? He did the first one.
Mark Webb did all the home.
He's done all three
trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Is he doing the fourth one? New Home? Or?
He's doing Fantastic Four, so I think it depends on when they want to get the Spider-Man.
I thought
going.
Shankman was doing Fantastic Four.
Oh, is he? Oh, you might be right. Also, you're wrong about it's. Colin Trevorrow did Safety Not Guaranteed, and that's what got him Jurassic World.
My apologies. I'm confusing my amateur directors that get big gigs after they do their indie film. So
exactly, and then get yelled at for not doing it well.
Well, they got the film. They got the parts anyway, so they got the job. So congrats. June 15th, the week after, you had a wide release of Rock of Ages. That's kind of a one I like, which my family makes fun of. And That's My Boy, which is the Adam Sandler film with Andy Samberg. Did you like that one?
That's My Boy. I did not see That's My Boy.
Really? It's surprising that you're an Andy Samberg fan.
I am, but I am not a Adam Sandler after Jack and Jill fan. So
shut up. Jack and Jill is
I kind of was just
good.
like
Listen. You need to get over the fact that he plays Jill. You just do, because it's actually pretty funny. I like Jack and Jill. I like Jack and Jill. I love Al Pacino and Jack and Jill, but I love everything. I like it. Like a lot of the other jokes in Jack and Jill as well.
No one told me the Sandberg one was good, so I was like, I didn't even bother seeing it, and then it kind of very much disappeared. Although I did see an Instagram clip about it a couple days ago.
The Adam Sandler films are never like. Some of them aren't like, not say aren't good, but they're not as funny as the other ones. But there's always something in there that's funny. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's why I'll always watch a Sandler film, because something in there will make me laugh, even if the film on the whole, like, I'm not a big fan of the murder mystery movies, the two ones he did with Jennifer Aniston.
Oh yeah, those are. Well, yeah. I only saw the first one,
but there's stuff in there that made me laugh. So to me, that's worth. I know what I'm getting when I'm going into an Adam Sandler film. So and he's a good dude, so I appreciate that. So he'll always have that attention from me. All right. Anyways, this film was directed by Ridley Scott, who's been nominated for 4 Oscars: The Martian, Black Hawk Down, Gladiator, and Thelma and Louise. Written by John Spates and then written by Damon Lindelof. Spates wrote a script that was sort of kind of dictated to him by Ridley, and Ridley, I guess, kept changing what he wanted as Spates was writing. And then when he delivered the script, Ridley Scott was like, I don't want to do any of this. And so then Damon Lindelof came in, and then Lindelof kind of did his magic and reworked a lot of the stuff.
Spates it up.
Spates actually, I have that he won an Oscar for Dune Part 1. I guess that's right. I thought I'm usually I have like indications here, like whether it's a star or a hashtag for me that tells me if he nominated, but I have that he won. So he won for Dune Part 1, and he's done Doctor Strange and Passengers. Lindelof, you might know him from the TV shows Lost and The Leftovers. Cinematographer was Darius Wolski, who won nominated for an Oscar for News of the World. He's also done Napoleon and Crimson Tide. Composer was Mark Streitenfeld, who's done The Grey and the 2015 Poltergeist film. Edited by Pietro Scalia, he's won 2 Oscars, Black Hawk Down and JFK, and then he's been nominated for Gladiator and Good Will Hunting. And I have here that it's produced by David Giler and Walter Hill. And I actually found out in the notes for this film that they're really just producers after Alien 3 at this point. They don't really they haven't been actively part of the franchise since Alien 3. So
I'm not surprised. I kind of figured.
They're just by name only. This one was also produced by Ridley Scott, who's done Death on the Nile and Concussion, 2 films that he did not do. I think he did Murder on the Orient Express as well in terms of producing it. This film has nobody returning from any of the other movies, a brand new cast. You had Noomi, how do you say her last name, man? I always say it wrong.
Rapace.
Is it Rapace? Okay, Noomi Rapace is Elizabeth Shaw, our heroine. She's from the original The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movies that were Swedish, right? Swedish films. And she's in the 2009 version. And actually they did 2 movies. They did all 3 books, the original 3 books. The 4th book is not written by the original author because he passed away. She did the first 2 books. So Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I think the second one's The Girl Kicks Up the Hornet's Nest. That might be the third one. I'm not sure. The third one that she did is not a movie. It actually came out as a series in Sweden. So these are before. Don't confuse Girl with the Dragon Tattoo 2009 foreign films with the Rooney Mara ones that with David Fincher. They're different. She's also in Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. That's the sequel to the first Sherlock Holmes, and I don't think she's in the third one, right? Because I don't even remember what happened.
There is no third one yet.
They're doing it. They're doing
not now that Robert Downey Jr. was offered $80 million to go do Fantastic Four.
More than $80 million. The Russos got $80 million to do the 2 Avengers films. Dumb. Michael Fassbender as David, our I guess our sentient robot, our android, or whatever they call him. What do they call him in there? Artificial life form. Right? Yeah. Nominated
for synthetic human.
There you go. Nominated for 2 Oscars, 12 Years a Slave and Steve Jobs. And he was obviously in X-Men First Class. He played the Magneto when they redid the X-Men. Charlize Theron as Meredith Vickers, who won an Oscar for Monster and was nominated for Bombshell and North Country. She's also in Mad Max Furio, the original Furiosa. Idris Elba as Janek from Beasts of No Nation and the TV show The Wire and the BBC TV show Luther. Guy Pearce as Peter Whalen from Memento, The Rover, LA Confidential, and Lockout, an episode we did on our main show. Logan Marshall Green as Charlie Holloway from Upgrade, The Invitation, and Devil. Sean Harris as Fifield from MI5 Rogue Nation and MI6 Fallout and movie Harry Brown. I kept telling Butler that every time he talked in this film, I kept waiting for him to say Ethan Hunt, because that's all he would say. That's all I remember from Mission Impossible movies. Rafe Spall as Milburn from Hot Fuzz, The Big Short. I will always remember him from the TV show Roadies, which was a Cameron Crowe show that I really liked, and they only had 1 season. So if you like Cameron Crowe, check out Roadies. Eamon Elliott as Chance from Filth, Game of Thrones TV show, and the Star Wars Force Awakens. And then a young and thin Benedict Wong as Ravel from The Martian and Doctor Strange. And then you had Patrick Wilson there a little bit. He plays Shaw's father in a memory that she's seeing as she's in hypersleep. Mm-hmm. And they credited Peter O'Toole in this because David's watching Lawrence of Arabia.
Clips are in there.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so Peter O'Toole's in this film. I should also say that this film was nominated for an Oscar for Best Visual Effects, which is deservedly so. Mm-hmm. But we'll get into the other facts and whatnot. Like we always like to do, kind of like, hey, Mike, what you think of the film? I know Mike loves this movie, so I don't really. So I'll leave the floor to you to tell everybody, I guess, why you like this film, and then we'll get into it. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I do really, really, really like this film. I could say I love this film. I could use the big L. I'll use the big L there. I think it looks stunning. I think, obviously when it came out, I think it was an IMAX and it looked awesome then. And then I probably watched this movie 5 or 6 times in the theaters. Just me and my buddy Dave really liked it. Watched it from the IMAX and as it got into progressively smaller theaters up until it left. I've watched the Blu-ray at least once, probably before Covenant came out. I love the look, the lighting, the colors, the cinematography. I love the special effects. I think the score is phenomenal. I love the main theme in this movie. I always have. And I like the story. I know a lot of people bash it because it's not Alien. It's not Aliens. It's not supposed to be. It's its own movie that kind of starts to tell the story of how the aliens are made. And yes, there are some issues with that and some things I might not like about that in terms of watching it from the perspective of an Alien fan, in terms of, okay. But in terms of just as a movie, as a science fiction film that explores, how we created and meeting one's maker, and Michael Fassbender as David is astonishing. Like, his performance was so good. And he wasn't nominated, correct?
No, he was not.
Yeah, I didn't think so. And I know there was talk about it. But I think he probably should have been. I think he did a phenomenal job. I think he's crafty and evil, a little sympathetic, and just always curious and kind of childlike as well at the same time. I just think the movie does a really good job. There's some gross out stuff. The scene in the med bay is really cool. There's just so much that I like about this movie. I could just keep like rambling on, but that's where I'll stop. Now tell me,
their show.
Now tell me what you thought about it while I have my finger over the end recording button.
That's fine. You can end it. Well, you brought up the fact that people's complaint about it is saying it's not an alien film, and you're like, it's not an alien film, and I agree with you there. But then again, we have it in our Alien lead up series, so so I mean, it's not. If they didn't have the thing at the end of the movie when it comes out of the engineer, then you can, I can sit here and be like, it's a movie within that universe. But I think that connects it to the Alien franchise, obviously.
It's absolutely connected.
Yeah, you know what
I mean, Wayland's in it, and they're searching for it. Everything's clearly a proto version of something. The engineers are clearly the guy they find in the first Alien movie in the ship.
Yeah. I think when I view this film as within that universe, I think it holds up better. I don't think you can go into it thinking like, oh, Alien, I'm going to see some Alien stuff. That being said, there's no, if we're going to talk, since this is an a lead up series and we've just talked about all these Alien movies, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, there's really no villain in this film. There's creatures, and there's the engineer who just gets angry at people for some reason. It's just like, it's almost like a philosophical film. It's people searching for the meaning of life, and, you know, not getting the right answer, not getting the answer they expect, or getting an answer that they need to kind of adapt to and understand.
Not getting the answer they want, for sure.
Right. It's a classic question that everybody asks: why we are here, who made us, who created us, but nobody is prepared for that answer. And no matter what they think it is, like, you know, so it's a different type of movie. And I'm not saying I don't like it because there's no villain. It's just that's what I'm saying. That's what the film is, and maybe that's why some people are not as high on it as maybe you are or I am, because of that. It's tough people want somebody to root against. People want somebody to root for, kind of thing.
You don't think that maybe David is the villain?
I don't see the childlike wonder. Yes. I don't see a villainous side to him. I think I just see him listening to his father when if we're talking about when he puts the speck of goo in the drink, in Holloway's drink, he's doing that because Wayland has told him to try harder. So I think he's just trying to, you know, do what his father's telling him.
Oh, that's what okay.
That's what he says when he comes out. Remember the scene when he comes out?
Yeah, and he says, Vickers says, oh, try harder. But I always got the impression that David was still undermining the whole thing. Like, he was doing his own thing. He didn't care about his father.
No.
Like, he tells Shaw, like, I don't care if my father dies.
That scene you're talking about is Vickers is saying to him, what did he say? And he says, try harder.
He said, try harder. Yeah.
So he's reporting what's happening. And they're there to find
the engineers.
Wayland is there to find the engineers because Wayland wants the engineers to make him healthier and younger and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a ridiculous thing to think that he could get. Yeah. Like, you know, but whatever. I guess
they made me, no doubt they can make me immortal.
Right. I mean, I guess that's when you're, you know, nearing your mortality, you try anything.
Right.
No, I never viewed David as somebody who was out and out evil. Now, when we get to Alien and Covenant, you know, I think that's a little different story. Yes. Yeah. That's definitely a different story. I just think he's somebody who, like you said, childlike wonder. He wants to know as well.
Well, that's the thing is like, it's like not necessarily even evil. It's just that he's not a person. So why does he care? Right. It's kind of one of like the things that people always talk about AI and how it's very important to have AI have the same morals as us. It's like, he has different morals because he's not one of us. He is not a person. And the thing is, Holloway helps to make that abundantly clear. And all the people that are complete dicks to him, it's like, even when Holloway gives Holloway one last chance to not be just a complete ass. And then he's like, no, I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's just like, David's like, all right, what would you do to find your answer?
Right. So let's since you brought Holloway up, let's talk about the characters in the movie. That was my biggest thing. Was Holloway was just such a, and Holloway is the other scientist that's with Shaw and their love interest. Even when we first meet them, when they all come out of hypersleep, they present why they're there, what they're doing. And Wayland's hologram says that they're in charge. And so even at that point, like, and I know that the note that he's supposed to be kind of like loose and not as,
Professional.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like casual. So I get that note, but it comes off as such like just a dick, like just like a real like condescending prick sometimes. And I'm like, I don't understand that decision and that choice, because it doesn't make me like him, because he's just kind of dickish. And then I think I told you, and we've had this conversation with in other movies and other shows, that when a character is that kind of prick, and he's not a lovable prick, he's not an anti-hero, and then your lead actress or actor likes them or is in love with them, then you start questioning their decision. Like, why do you like this person? This person is not nice. He's not a good dude. And we talk about like the scene when you made him, the scene when he's giving David a hard time, always reminding him that he's a robot, always reminding him that he doesn't have emotions. The scene when they first go into what we find out later that's the ship, but this little, where they go, one of the bubbles that, the engineers are dead. They're not there. And he's upset and angry that they're not there. And
he's like, I just wanted to talk to him. Where?
Right.
It's like,
right.
You found the creators of the human race. You still did good, dude.
Yeah. And I didn't understand that reaction, number one. And number two, because why was your expectation like they were going to be sitting there in a chair going, "What's up, man? How you doing? Hey, you found us." Like, why was that your consideration? And you're a scientist. So don't you think that the fact that you're there and that you're experiencing it, and like you're basically taking notes and taking readings and seeing something that no human has ever seen before, you decide to just have a hissy fit, go get drunk and just be pissy to everybody because you didn't get to, I mean, like your girlfriend, they're not married, right? They're boyfriend and girlfriend.
I think they're just boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah. Okay. They don't say they're married.
She's brought back a head and she's examining it and she's like found something, and like you're sulking in the corner. It was not a fan.
I'm so mad.
Not a fan of the way Holloway was portrayed. And I'm not laying at that feet at the actor, because that could be just what they discussed in the pre-production. Like, this is what he's supposed to be. I just was not a fan of it.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think he was written like that. But there's even a deleted scene where he comes in drunk and mad, and he's just a complete, and it's on the Blu-ray. He's just even more of a dick to Shaw. The scene where now in the actual version, he gives her a rose, and it's because test audiences saw that and they hated it. Or maybe not even test audiences. I think just Ridley Scott saw that in the edit and went, oh no, I don't like this. Why would she have sex with this guy? So he had to go in and refilm that scene so that it made sense for them to sleep together, because the way it was originally written, it's like he even realized in the editing room, no, this isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so what other characters in the film? You talked about David. You talked about Holloway. We talked about Holloway a little bit. Why don't we talk about Shaw and Vickers, or any other characters that stood out, whether negatively or positively? Like, who did you?
If we're gonna go negative, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, Fifield, he's whatever, but like Milburn doesn't make any sense to me. And we talked, and I think this is where most people are like, this is why the movie's terrible. I think you've brought it up before, although I'm not saying you think the movie's terrible. I don't know what you think about the movie, really.
I just
but a bunch of people have brought this up where they've gone because of him and the snake, which is, I will admit, him and the snake is really stupid. Someone who's supposed to be a biologist going up to this creature that's clearly giving you warn. I get going up to the creature and being like, oh my God, it's a new alien being, and being excited. But that thing is clearly giving you warning signs and you don't know anything about it. It's clearly telling you to back off. Why would you continue to provoke it?
Yeah, even that scene in and of itself is kind of counterintuitive to, in terms of what Milburn is supposed to be, like you say. But that comes 10 minutes after he runs away. Right. When the Fifield, the geologist, is like, dead bodies, I want to get out. He's like, yeah, man, get out of here. And then the next thing you're not only are you calm, but like you just found out that you're stuck there for the whole night till the storm happens. So the storm goes
stuck in the ship.
You're remarkably all right. Yeah. And the fact that you decide the one place that we're going to hole up and just kind of wait it out is the room where all this ooze is melting out of these pots, which we don't know what is, with our helmets off, and we don't understand what's going on.
Right. Yeah. At some point they should have been like, goop, it's helmets back on. We don't know what's going on with this. Yeah, they go right back into the goo room, which makes no sense.
Right.
And Milburn being afraid of finding a dead mummy, it's just like that's what you're there for. You're literally the biologist. Fifield getting afraid because he's like he said, he's the rocks guy. All right, get him out of there. Whatever. But Milburn being afraid of all the stuff that he was hired to do was just so stupid.
What did you think of Shaw in terms of just her motivation, her overall? I
like Shaw a lot.
Story arc.
I think her story arc is strong. I think the whole movie tests her conviction, and her need to know the truth. And I think it plays well. It plays well against David and his childlike wonder. And Shaw never wavers. She goes through a lot of stuff, and her conviction remains the same. Her need to know, her search for the truth is still there. I really like Shaw, other than her choice in men. I think she's a really good, strong character, and we'll get into an Alien Covenant. One of the main reasons I don't like Alien Covenant is because of what they do with Shaw's character.
Well, in this movie, she, do you think that her survival actions and what she's doing in terms of escaping the engineer and just when the shit hits the fan, do you think those have been earned? Have you learned enough about her in the movie to believe that she could be like this Ripley type character, which is what they're doing?
I mean, I suppose. I mean, you don't get a lot about who Ripley is to know much about Ripley's survival instinct, other than that she's the commander of a tow truck, basically.
Well, I'm thinking like in Aliens, like the stuff that Ripley does in Aliens, I think she has the benefit of the first film, obviously, to
having gone through stuff.
Yeah. I think it's like Shaw's stamina to have basically surgery without anesthesia. But I mean, I know she's hitting herself.
She pumps herself with so many drugs.
She's still screaming.
Yeah. The last 25 minutes of the movie is just a montage of her shooting up with needles.
And you think after that surgery, she would pass out. Like she would fall asleep because she's filling herself up with anesthetic.
I think maybe in the hallway, I think maybe it turns into it becomes adrenaline.
Okay.
I think it's painkillers followed by adrenaline. I think her heart is like probably doesn't know what's going on. But I don't know.
What about, I wanted to talk about Vickers, because I did not know that with Vickers and the Charlize Theron character that there was this hotly debated conspiracy theory that she's not human, that she's an android like David, because the way she's dressed, the way she appears, the way she just like, because she's dressed like David and the way she just kind of like contorts herself. And what's his face? Janik asks her, which is the Idris Elba character, "Are you a robot?" And then she like them, and then they like go have sex. She's like, "Bye at my place, 10 minutes." But the idea is that she doesn't know she's a robot. So, Butler, do you think that she's a robot?
I don't think that, because if she was a robot, Wayland clearly dotes more on David.
Yes.
Why isn't David getting his own mansion, ship attachment, and stuff like that?
I
don't think she's a robot. I think David is why she's like that. I think David's probably his favorite child, even though he's not really a child. And Vickers hates that, especially hates that David hates him, and still is the favorite. So Vickers puts herself out there kind of as a human version of David, but I don't think she's like David. I also think she's a little too illogical and too fearful, a little too nervous. We haven't met a robot that really feels that much kind of nervousness and fear yet.
It's also weird because she's gone with Prometheus to this the LV 223 or 233, I think.
223, yeah, one of those two, yeah.
223. But she doesn't want to be there, but she's almost like bullied to be there because David was sent out, and and she had to go, and Waylon was there, so she had to be there. But like you can tell, like whether she's a germaphobe or whether she's just scared, she wants, she clearly doesn't want to be there.
Yeah,
but she's
overly cautious. Yeah.
Yeah, and I equate the life raft that she's in, like that's her design. I create that she put that. I'll go, but I want my own.
For sure. Yeah.
So I imagine that's where that from. Did you see the note that LV 2? Oh, I just said it. I forgot it. 223. No, it's 223. Is supposed to be a neighboring planet of LV 246. Like and they say that you don't see it when they show the solar system or the system that it is or the moon, but that's because it's blocked by the planet in between them. But LV 246 is supposed to be there as well. Do you buy that, or do you think that's just people? You think that's just them saying that?
I think that's probably just people saying that. I mean, it's a cool idea. I mean, the movie does set out and lets you know that there's tons of other planets with these weapons platforms. So it lets you know that, yes, there could still be another 246 is still around. So
it begs the question, why on this planet do they have installations and government and like where they're doing their secret experiments or whatever? Like, which I question when Janek says that, like there's at the end of the film, the stuff that he's telling Shaw, I know it's the truth about the planet. Like this isn't even their home planet. They came here to do this stuff because they knew how dangerous it was, and it backfired on them. I know all that's true. I just don't know how he knows that. So I
think he's putting it all together. I mean, it's the only installation on the planet. So clearly this wasn't their home world. There's all of them died and were running away from this goop. The goop is clearly a weapon. I think he's the guy who's just been sitting there watching all this unfold on the monitors. I think he's just picking it up. And, I assume he's ex-military.
It's very strange that he would leave the ship to go in on the second search or the second exploration. Cause I'm like, I thought he's just the guy who's just flying the ship. But correct me if I'm wrong. When they land, and that you talk about that installation right there, I thought there's more behind them. Wasn't there more stuff, more of those, because he says,
mounds?
David says there's another ship. He says there's another ship. I assume they go to one of the other mounds of the installation.
Yeah, there's a couple of mounds. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I thought so.
There's 3 in the overhead shot when they get there, I think.
There's more. I know it goes down the line. Yeah.
It goes, and there's the tracks.
Right. In the movie itself, are there visuals in this film that stand out to you like the stuff that we talked about in the previous Alien films?
Like one shots. Like I think.
Well, we talk about how the iconic shot in the Alien 3 is.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, is there stuff like that in this film for you?
I think I love the shot of them touching down on the planet. Mm-hmm. I think the special effects work and the space stuff is really cool. The final shot, obviously, of the proto alien coming out and then opening his jaw with the second jaw. I always think that shot's really neat. I like that shot a lot. Mm-hmm. And then the first shot with the engineer, I think, is something I always think about when he drinks the thing and he evaporates himself.
Yeah.
And you're going over Iceland. I think those are really cool shots. I don't think anything's as iconic.
What about the
alien, though?
What about the shot of the engineer actually using the device that we first see in Alien, where it's like where the engineer
when he gets in the telescope thing?
Yeah, like how about
that? That's a really cool shot
being worked. Yeah, being utilized, and the mask going on and all that stuff. Do you like the engineers? Do you like that design?
I like the idea of the engineers. I like the engineers, but I'm not a huge fan of the design. Because I just feel like, all right, now we got to make a mask that makes him look like these creatures that we find in the first Alien. I think they so wanted them to look more human that I think it kind of takes away from them in a little bit. I think it could have been slightly creepier if they were a little bit more alien than us and looked a little bit more like the engineer mask looks. Because why are you making a mask that looks like a skull? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I would have liked them to look a little bit more elephant person-y, but That's just me. What did you think of the engineers?
No, I liked that they were taller. I liked their skin. I know that the design was inspired by, translucent sea creatures where you can see the arteries and veins and stuff, and cobras, apparently, whichever that means. I liked that look. I didn't realize that they actually had somebody create the language. So did you see the note where linguist Anil Biltu, he actually based the engineer's language on Proto-Indo-European language that was spoke up until 2500 BC. And that's supposed to be, that language is where European and Indian languages spawned. So he kind of said, like, this is probably the language that they might have learned from the engineers in terms of the humans that they first make. Which I don't understand how they would learn like, that's my thing with the engineers. They go there, the guy drinks the goop, he becomes part of the water, life starts, life forms. They come back and be like, yo, we made you guys, what's up? And like, is that what we're saying? Because when they have the picture, when they're pointing to the stars, that's how they, got to this planet. Is that what we're saying here?
From what I always got, yeah. And there's another scene where there's a little bit more, like there's a ceremony right before it. That
Right.
The engineers that do this, that seed Earth, weren't supposed to. Like, we were not meant to be helped or assisted in any way. This planet was not meant for that. And so we're basically the mistake that they have to clean up. I do like that they're taller. I get why you make them human. It also kind of feeds into that kind of the Anunnaki myth of like the big humans are what created us, and that kind of ancient aliens, ancient Native American mythology kind of thing. I just would have liked elephant people.
Well, you talk about all the time. You talk about you like movies that have themes. So why don't you break down the themes of this film? I mean, they're pretty much hit you over the head. But what are some of the themes in here that you kind of gravitated towards? I mean, we could talk about the myth of Prometheus and what that entails, and who the Titan Prometheus was and what he did. But what about there's a lot of themes about belief. Go ahead. What theme did you like in this?
I mean, I really like the idea of, I really like David's storyline. I like the idea of David and fighting against your creator, or trying to figure out what your place is in the world, and seeing it through David's eyes and the human's eyes. The humans so desperately want to know, and David is cursed with the burden of knowing. It's like that Rick and Morty episode where the robot's like, why am I here? And Rick goes, to pass the butter. And the robot goes, oh my God. Like, imagine that robot, but with the power of David. And is just like so frustrated and so disappointed. And his creators treat him so badly. And it's just like, these humans are so desperate to figure it out. And they're so sad when it turns out the engineers kind of treat them the same way and have the same kind of thoughts about them. So I always gravitated toward that. There is stuff about faith, but as a man of very little to no faith, like I'm not much of that. I don't really fall into that category. I still like the idea. I like the idea.
You choose not to believe.
I choose. Yeah, I don't want to get into it, but yeah, I'm not of a particular. Not that I don't believe in something, but I don't believe in anything that's like set in stone and written in a book. But I do appreciate Elizabeth's conviction, and I do appreciate her not abandoning science for religion and being like, there can be both. Like, oh, I guess you got to throw away that necklace now. Who made the engineers? I appreciate that theme. I appreciate the themes there. But it's really that kind of man versus creation. And like you said, there's the Prometheus myth as well, which they really beat you on the head over, because that's also the name of the ship. But yeah, I really gravitate more toward David's themes, I think.
For those who maybe missed it in the film or want a refresher, the Prometheus is in Greek mythology, the Prometheus is a Titan that he stole and gave the gift of fire, of God fire, to man. And it was like, basically he wanted to even the playing field between man and gods. And that's why, he made mankind dangerous to the gods. So that's his myth. It's a creation myth. It's kind of like, there's another myth where he like shaped man from mud, and Athena breathed life into man. Like, that's another myth that they have there too. But yeah, so that's where that's from, and her choosing to believe that Shaw talks about, that Butler mentioned. I think that's I think faith is a choice. It's definitely a choice for a lot of people. It may not feel like a choice. Butler, I would remind you that if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So I just want to remind you that you should kind of pick a lane. That's fine. You can. No one's gonna. It's a safe space, Butler. You can. If you don't believe, you don't believe. You can,
I just don't believe in an attributed. I don't believe in following a book.
Of course not. If not to give anyone a lesson, but that book was written by man. So I mean, yes. Man, maybe man was touched by God to write it, but what about when they got together to put the big book together and they were all pitching their stories and parables, and some were taken, some were not, and that was all political. So I mean, let's just throw that out there. But anyways, moving on. This is Ridley Scott suggested that the engineer was sent to Earth to stop humanity's aggression, but was crucified. The implication being that it was Jesus Christ. And that he felt
seen that.
Yeah, that it was too obvious of a religious allegory for the film. Like in the beginning of the movie, they have said this, that in the beginning of the film, when the engineer drinks the goop, that they're not saying that that's Earth. They're just saying that that's like he did that. So they're not really saying that's Earth. I know that that's the assumption, but so take that for what you will. You talk about you like the music. You talked about the score. Did you see how he did the score? Did you read that?
Yeah, he had the orchestra play it, and then he reversed it, and then he had the computer play it back.
No,
correctly.
He wrote the composition backwards, and they played it backwards. And
they played it backwards. He plays it forward.
Digitally reversed it. Do you believe that? Do we think that that's how that's what happened there?
If he said that's what he did, I have no reason to doubt him. Why would you say you did that if you didn't actually do it?
Because the score sounds so it doesn't sound unsettling. Like that was the whole thing. He thought that he was doing it so it was sound unusual and unsettling. I'm like, I didn't think it sounded unusual. I thought it sounded like a well put together score.
Maybe some things, but the theme song, is actually kind of pretty. It's nice. I like the theme song quite a bit.
Oh, you think it's pretty?
Almost hopeful. I do think it's pretty.
Okay, so let me. I talked about this before, and I want to kind of because I finally found the note. So the planet that they're on is LV-223, and it's a neighboring planet of LV-426 from Alien. LV-223 and LV-426 are two of three planetoid moons orbiting the ringed gas giant Kalapamos. I think that's a Kalpamos, which can be seen in Alien when the Nostromo hones in on the mysterious signal coming from the derelict ship and sets down on one of the moons. So that's where that note comes from. So, I mean, I guess we're gonna have to find out what's going on there. Let's go back.
You can't go back. All the movies now are prequels and stuff.
I know. Well, why not? You can always go back. I also found this note. I wanted to bring this up. I talked a little bit about the writing, and I talked about the script, about how Spates was, basically trying to keep track. I thought this was a really cool thing that he did, and not that I want to do this, but I admire it. In order for him to keep track of all the Ridley Scott's notes and wishes for the movie, for the story, that he created a kind of board game with locations in the movie, and he had board pieces representing characters that he could move around and figure out what was happening. So I thought that was kind of like a little clue board going on there. I thought that was really interesting in terms of tackling the script, kind of like a note card thing, but it's more of a visual. I don't think I'll ever do that, but I thought that was really cool that that's kind of what he did there with writing the book. Excuse me, writing the screenplay.
Yeah, that is cool. That helps you know where your characters are in relation to everything too. And
right.
Especially when you have, Shaw and David are obviously the mains, but you still have to know where, the captain is, where Vickers is, where Wayland is. And I think that's pretty cool. When you're being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to write a screenplay and you have that time to draw a board game.
I love that. The other note I have for the writing was Lindelof was brought on. He had somebody must have asked him about writing a prequel or writing a sequel or writing whatever, probably writing a prequel, writing a story within a universe that's already set kind of thing. And he had, quote, "If the ending is just going to be the room that John Hurt walks into that's full of eggs, there's nothing interesting in that because we know where it's going to end. Good stories, you don't know where they're going to end. A true prequel should essentially precede the events of the original film, but be about something entirely different, feature different characters, have an entirely different theme, although it takes place in that same world." What do you think of that?
That's called a spin-off, Lindelof. I don't I don't necessarily subscribe to a lot of the stuff he says in his interviews. I think he comes off as pompous and arrogant half the time.
Not confident. You think he's arrogant, not confident? I mean, Lost is a pretty big deal. The Leftovers is a pretty big deal. I mean, he did put that together.
Lost was a pretty big deal for the first few seasons, and then everybody wanted to rip him apart for the end of it.
Sure.
Star Trek 2009 was great until he got his hands on Into Darkness, and everybody wanted to tear him apart for it. The Leftovers, I have heard, is very good, but I think a prequel should be whatever you have. If you have a story that involves the same characters, if you have a prequel that talks about how they enter the room at the end and you want to enter it with that little bit of excitement of, oh man, it's like a completed circle and you just feel like the circle is now complete or the path is complete, then go for it. I'm cool with watching young Anakin Skywalker grow up to be Darth Vader. I don't need a prequel like what do we just get with Acolyte? I don't need that prequel. I wanted to know how Darth Vader turned to the dark side. It's got some of the same characters. It's got Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, screw you. You could do whatever you want. It's your story. You do what you want with it. Ridley Scott created this franchise. He can do a story about the aliens taking a dump and you follow the dump going down a pipe. The stories are what you want them to be. And I don't agree with someone telling you what a prequel should be this. Like, I hate that. I hate people like... Don't tell me what a story is.
Well, I think maybe he's saying in his way that you shouldn't feel obligated to kind of like hint at the room of eggs or something like that, or show it, which some prequels do. Some prequels or sequels feel the need to kind of have that in there to kind of like, whether it's a cool Easter egg or to connect it. I think, and then that maybe ends up becoming the focus of that scene, and maybe that's what takes away from the story. I understand what he's saying.
It's like his vials of goop aren't laid in the exact formation as the hives, as like the engineer's cave doesn't look like a hive. He's acting like he doesn't have a face hugger at the end. He's acting like he doesn't have a proto xenomorph at the end. Like, dude, you're doing all this stuff and then being douchey about saying, yeah, it just doesn't end there. Just say it didn't end there.
But you like this movie. You like that it's different from the other films.
I love this movie. I love that it's different from the other film.
But you're bitching that he's saying it.
He's saying something that's not true, though. Yes, it doesn't end with him walking to the room of eggs. But it's absolutely... You tie it to a bunch of alien things and you allude to a lot of alien things. Like you want to say it's separate, like kind of like you said, kind of going back against what I said at the beginning of this. It is an alien movie. It's got a lot of stuff about aliens and it teaches you about it. It's got the same ship, the same engineers. I don't know.
I don't take as much umbrage to the quote as you do. I think what I'm saying is I agree with him in the fact that a good story is you really shouldn't know how stuff ends. It's really difficult to do prequels when you know how it's going to end. You know, like it makes your job a lot harder. For instance, for you to you reference like Kenobi and the Star Wars stuff and young Anakin. It makes it a lot harder for the prequels to make you kind of follow the storyline of Anakin and care for a character when you know ultimately he's going to be evil, or you know how his ending is. So it makes your job harder. That's all.
I get that, and I get that you put new characters in. You know, the prequels had Padme and Jango Fett and Mace Windu and all these newer characters that you don't know how their fates end. And I do agree with that. Like Dexter, the prequel series, I don't know how they're going to deal with that because you know about his dad, you know about Deb, you know about Dexter. It's just like, all right, like I know what happens to all these guys. But yeah, I just don't agree. I think I'm reading into it a little differently than you are, maybe.
I just think I think what I'm saying, I think you're focusing on his whole idea of like, you just don't want John Hurt walk in the room like, hey, they're the eggs. I think what I'm focusing on is the idea of
not having the same characters,
but just creating a story that works. Like we talk about all the time, like Star Wars needs to be, if they never made Empire and Return of the Jedi, Star Wars needs to be on its own. Like this film needs to be on its own. You need to create a film that can just exist without everything else. That's all I'm saying.
100%. It can have a cliffhanger, but it still has to be a movie that ends.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that whole, if there's no Alien Covenant, we'd probably always sit to be like, oh, I love that Prometheus ending. I wonder what they would have done with it. You know what I mean? But like, it doesn't really.
And
that
then
ending,
there's Covenant.
Well, I don't remember too much of Covenant, so we'll be interested going forward.
I've only also seen Covenant the one time. I own it, but I never watched it again.
I just always remember who's in it. Who's the lead?
I don't even remember.
The guy?
Michael Fassbender.
No. No, he's in The Flash. He's the Flash's father in the Flash movie. Whatever the frig that movie was called. Flashpoint? Was that called Flashpoint?
I think it's just called The Flash.
Was it called The Flash? I have no idea.
I think it was.
What's his Billy Crudup? Isn't Billy Crudup the
Crudup is in the movie.
Yeah,
I mean, Catherine whatever is the main character.
Catherine Waterston. That's right. I always remember Crudup in the film for some reason because I think something must happen. But anyways, who cares?
Oh man, I forgot Danny McBride's in this too.
Is he the same character he was in Tropic Thunder? Because that'd be great.
Absolutely. No, he's the vice principal from this show.
That's a great show too. I heard they might come back with that. I heard they might do another season.
Vice principals? That'd be cool.
I love that show. Anyways, Hollywood Reporter's Todd McCarthy Butler said the film, quote, caters too much to imagined audience expectations when a little more adventurous thought might have taken it to some excitingly unsuspected destinations.
I think she didn't read people's reaction to the film.
Well, Todd's a dude, but Todd maybe wanted a different film. That's probably what we're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading into because I think they didn't play into audiences' expectations at all. Like, I think that's why a lot of hardcore fans don't like this movie.
Time Out London's Tom Huddleston, not Tom Hiddleston. Tom Huddleston, the photography is pleasingly crisp and the design is stunning, but the script feels flat and the dialogue is lazy. I find that really, I mean, there's some heavy topics we're talking about here.
Yeah. Come on.
Salon's
go watch Alien Requiem.
Salon's Andrew O'Heher wrote the film was somber, spectacular, and ponderous, but there's that but that portentousness and grandiosity is at once the film's great strength and great weakness, and criticized the characters for lacking common sense.
Oh, sorry. Again, one scene where they lack common sense. Second of all, the ponderance and the grandiosity, you called, what'd she say? It was supreme.
Andrew said it was
supreme. The word he used.
He used somber, spectacular, and ponderous, but that the
spectacular,
yeah.
So you can't say a movie's spectacular and then go on and bash it. You said it was spectacular already. And also, these are probably the same reviewers again that loved, because this movie I think takes a little bit from topics and themes and probably some of the look of some things that 2001 does, and kind of riffing on Kubrick a little while putting it in the Alien universe. Whereas this is very much their own take. These reviewers are probably the ones that are like, oh, Interstellar, oh, that's so good, oh, Christopher Nolan. Like, I hate reviewers. I just hate them. What else?
Well, I hope you don't hate this one. The Vatican's official newspaper, L'Osservatore Romano, gave a negative review of this film, saying that it, quote, mishandles the delicate questions raised by the battle eternal between good and evil. Quote.
They didn't stick to the script we wrote.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Where's Jesus in this?
Jesus is the guy at the beginning who drinks the goop.
No, talking about
they didn't like that.
No, I guess not. They were talking about when you were talking about Ridley Scott trying using Stanley Kubrick as inspiration. I forgot to mention to talk about Fassbender, who watched for his inspiration for David. He watched Blade Runner, The Man Who Fell to Earth, The Servant, and Lawrence of Arabia to prep for the role. And then he also studied the movement of Greg Louganis to kind of, I guess, figure out how, his walk and his gait. Fassbender really put a lot into this role, and Mike already talked about how much he liked him in this. So, I'm sure Mike wants to dye his hair blonde now because of the film, because he's dyeing his hair blonde in the movie. I think he should go. He should go as David for Halloween.
Straighten my hair.
Yeah.
Bleach my hair again. People liked it the first time.
Would you have liked this movie if it was called Alien Engineers or Alien Origins or Alien Tomb of the Gods or LV-246 or Paradise? It was almost going to be called Paradise.
I know it was almost could be called Paradise. I would have liked it was called Paradise because it's ironic because it's anything but. If it had the Alien title, I would have been okay with it. I would have still liked it for what it was. But I think you'd piss off a lot more fans would be like, you called it Aliens, and I got nothing. With the title being Prometheus, they really don't promise you anything. They don't owe you anything. I'm pretty sure the lead up to this movie, Ridley Scott just said, this is a movie that takes place in the universe that explains the origins of the things that created the aliens. And that's what you get.
Which he always wanted to do. The original ship was not called Prometheus. They changed the ship to Prometheus when they named the movie Prometheus. The original ship title was Magellan. For those out there who want to win a trivia contest or something like that, just heads up.
With that, I want that ship. It's a cool looking ship.
Big, really big.
Fly around with it.
Yeah, I mean, we can go into a little other things if you want. Is there anything else that kind of I haven't touched upon that you want to talk about?
One thing I wrote in my notes is I really love the fact that so much of the set is practical. And so much of like the ship is actually there. So much of the, when they first pull up to the weapons cache building essentially, but they have the rover comes in and the smaller cars come in. I was like, oh man, those are real cars. They're really there and their doors are really opening. I always really like that. We always talk about that in the show. And that's just something I really like. My
note for that is he recalled the advice that Douglas Trumbull gave him on the set of Blade Runner. And those who don't know, we did a Douglas Trumbull film, The Final Countdown, on the show, on the main show. So we talk about Trumbull a little bit. And he said Trumbull told him, if you can do it live, do it live. Because Trumbull was a special effects guy. But then my note right after this film has 1,300 CGI shots. So I mean, they couldn't do everything live. But yes, so they do kind of have stuff. It's tough when you do sci-fi. It's sci-fi, and we've talked about that before, sci-fi that has real tangible, realistic feel like that, where you're like, I believe this is what it would be. I think always goes farther in terms of believability for us, or for me at least. So yeah, if it's as much as you can do in camera and on the set, the better. And I know that we have both seen clips and seen newspaper clippings, seen like stories and stuff like that about Alien Romulus, which is what we're leading up to, and that he did a lot of stuff. They did a lot of stuff that they built. They built the eggs. They built the whole set. So I think that's something we can appreciate, and I'm sure the actors can appreciate as well. So we're obviously big fans of that.
Indeed. So overall, we discussed kind of like what you thought of the like little pieces, but overall, what do you think of this film?
It's a good watch. It's a solid watch. I like it. There are questions that, like the Holloway stuff, which we talked about, always rubbed me the wrong way. I know they explain when you read the notes why the engineer's decision to smack Wayland and rip David's head off is supposed to be that we're not good enough to talk to them, or we're their creation. So they look down on us. So that's why the engineer is just so violent, but they never really say that in the movie. So it just kind of like the engineer's in hypersleep for however many years, decades, wakes up, just starts going crazy, and just like, it's like right at it. So that kind of stuff was just like, okay. So there's a lot of stuff that I had questions about. The whole idea where Shaw's like, she says that she tells, I don't know if David or she tells Vickers, or I can't remember who, like they're wrong. Like, like we're wrong about it. And I'm like, well, what's the indication that you're wrong? Because you just said that you have the same DNA as them. Like that that they created you. You're part of them. What are you wrong about? I didn't understand what she was saying that.
Well, I think she's saying we're wrong that they want to help us, that they'd be benevolent.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, because that's right after she gets it ripped out. She rips the thing out of her stomach. That's what she says that to David and Wayland, I'm pretty sure. That she's like half on the ground.
Right. No, I mean, I enjoy it. Enjoy the watch, but there's always things that I'm just like, why are we doing this? Why is that? And I think I'm missing maybe 10, 15 minutes of just stuff to kind of seal everything up. And it looks great. I love the music. I think I told you I didn't realize that Prometheus had such a memorable score. You know, that notes I think the 6 or 7 notes that you hear constantly throughout. I mean, the ending is kind of like the ending of Alien, where, you know, she's going off and you don't know what's happening, kind of like when Ripley goes into hypersleep at the end. So it kind of leaves it a little open-ended. I think that's kind of like almost a little staple of a lot of these films, especially Ridley Scott's films in this franchise. No, it's a good watch. It's definitely better than what we watched last week. Obviously better than any of the AVPs.
I'd be shocked if there's anything else in Forgotten Cinema that we've watched that's not better than what we watched last week.
I mean, I can think of a couple already off the top of my head.
Season 5. Yeah, I know.
No, season 5.
Oh, all the audience.
Not all of them. Some. But that's why we did that season. I enjoy it. I think character decisions just I don't know if I love it like you have. I like it. I wouldn't say I love it because there's just the Holloway stuff really bugs me.
I can live with that.
Well, I don't have to. Why do I have to love it if you love it?
I'm just so sick of me loving a movie and you go, yeah, it's all right. I'm glad I got one you also like.
Well, you have to understand, Mike,
that isn't one that we both know that we really like.
You've seen Prometheus how many times?
I mean, I didn't realize the movie came out in 2012, so I probably haven't watched this movie in 10 years.
How many times have you seen it?
But before that, I've probably watched it 6 or 7 times, I would say.
This is my second watch. So I probably need to watch it again or kind of revisit it and just kind of see. I don't know. For some reason, I need more time sometimes with movies. And I don't want to be quick to say, oh, I love it. And then a year later, I'm like, I didn't like this part. But you talked about the same, you talked about the stuff that I kind of, when we didn't understand or didn't like, the whole, Milburn stuff and Holloway stuff.
Oh, sure.
About all that.
I think the same things you don't like about the film, I also don't like.
Yeah.
But I like the other stuff that I like a lot more, that I kind of forgive it for those weaknesses. But yeah.
Yeah, no, there's nothing in this film that I don't like that ruins it for me or I'm not a fan of. I think I want more, or I want a better explanation, or I want more of an explanation. I don't want to learn about stuff from the movie, from the notes. I want it in the movie, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's all. That's all I'm missing. I want to know about, it's tough because I'm asking for exposition dumps. You know what I mean? And we complain about that all the time. But I want to know what the black goo is. I want to know more about it. I want to know more about what the engineers' plans were. And maybe that's the whole point. The movie is asking questions that don't need to be answered. It wants you to ask those questions and think about it. And to that regard, that's success, and that's a successful film. And it's definitely a movie that's heady, where you can talk about it and talk about the themes and talk about what they're trying to say about us and belief in life and all that stuff. I think that's another positive. So, so yes, I enjoy this film. And I was going to go right into, why do we think it's forgotten? I do all the time, but this is not that serious. This is a lead up series.
Nope. This movie made almost $500 million.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely not forgotten. And I don't know too many people that don't like this movie or said Prometheus is garbage. I don't know many people that have said that. And I can say the same thing for next week's film and our final lead up. We finally got through them all. And next week we're going to be doing Alien Covenant, and that'll be our next one and then leading up to Alien Romulus, which will be a now showing episode. And that's all I got, Mike. I don't know if you've got anything else you want to add or discuss, or you want to thank our patrons again.
I mean, thank you, patrons. You make this show and everything we do possible. Let everybody know about this. Go check out our merch store. You got your merch store discounts. Just thank you for supporting the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. So we'll see you next for Alien Covenant before our final now showing. So our final lead up episode next week, Alien Covenant. And then we will go on to our now showing. And then I don't know what we're going to do after that, but we'll figure it out. So as always, I am Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And we don't want to go where we came from. We want to go where they came from. See you around, everybody.